Bob Dozier was a killer. 23 confirmed kills, fastest draw in Creek Nation, never missed a shot in his life. He told everyone who'd listen that Bass Reeves was a dead man, that no black marshal was going to bring him in, that he'd put a bullet between Reeves' eyes and laugh while he died. April 3rd, 1884, Devil's Creek clearing. The mud was 3 inches deep. Rain hammered down like bullets. Bob Dozier stood 15 feet away, his Winchester rifle already aimed at Bass Reeves' chest. He was wearing a thick leather vest, the kind Texas cattle ranchers used, tough enough to stop a pistol round. He'd worn it specifically for this moment. "I told you I'd kill you, Reeves," Dozier shouted over the storm. "I keep my promises." Dozier's finger began to tighten on the trigger. He was the faster man. Everyone knew it. But Bass Reeves was watching Dozier's eyes, not his hands, not the rifle, his eyes. And in the split second before Dozier's finger completed the pull, before the firing pin struck the primer, Bass saw the decision, saw the exact moment Dozier committed to the shot. Bass moved, 1 step left, not fast, just precise, just early enough. The Winchester cracked like thunder. Dozier's bullet tore through the rain where Bass had been standing a fraction of a second earlier. And in the time it took Dozier to work the lever action, in that single second it took him to chamber another round, Bass Reeves drew his Colt .45 and fired. 1 shot. Bass didn't aim for the head, too small a target in the rain. Didn't aim for the chest. He'd noticed Dozier's vest the moment the outlaw walked into the clearing. Thick leather, would stop a .45 round at this range. The neck, exposed, unprotected, the only clean kill. The bullet hit exactly where Bass aimed, 3 inches below the jaw, tore through the carotid artery. Dozier's Winchester fell from his hands. He dropped to his knees in the mud, blood pouring from the wound, mixing with rainwater. His eyes went wide with the realization that he'd just made the last mistake of his life. Because Bob Dozier had spent 11 weeks running from Bass Reeves, 11 weeks believing that being the fastest draw meant you'd win, 11 weeks learning the hard way that Bass Reeves wasn't just a tracker, he was a hunter. And hunters don't chase prey, they study it, predict it, and strike when the prey thinks it's safe. What Dozier didn't understand, what got him killed in 3 seconds in that muddy clearing, was this. Bass Reeves wasn't the fastest draw in the West. He was the smartest. And when you're smart enough to move before the fastest man pulls his trigger, speed doesn't matter. Dozier missed. Reeves didn't. That's the difference between being fast and being legendary. To understand how these two men ended up in that clearing, you need to go back 18 months. June 1882, Fort Smith, Arkansas. Bass Reeves arrested Bob Dozier for armed robbery, caught him red-handed with stolen goods from a Creek Nation trading post. It was a clean arrest, no gunfight, no drama. Just Bass walking up to Dozier in a saloon and putting him in chains before Dozier even realized what was happening. The humiliation burned. Dozier, the fastest draw in Creek Nation, arrested by a black marshal without even getting a chance to draw his gun. Dozier was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. 6 months later, Dozier escaped, killed a guard, stole a horse, disappeared into Indian Territory. And that's when his hatred for Bass Reeves became personal. In Dozier's mind, if Bass Reeves hadn't arrested him, if that black marshal had minded his own business, Dozier would still be free, would never have gone to prison, would never have had to kill a guard and become a wanted man. Dozier blamed Bass for everything that went wrong after that arrest. Over the next year, Dozier killed 4 more men. 2 were lawmen. 2 were informants who'd helped Bass track criminals. And after each kill, Dozier left the same message carved into a tree or pinned to the body. Reeves is next. January 5th, 1884, Muskogee, Indian Territory. Bob Dozier walked into the Red Dog Saloon after killing Deputy Marshal Tom Wilson in an ambush. He threw Wilson's badge on the bar and bought everyone around. 50 outlaws listened as Dozier made his declaration. "That's 4 lawmen I've put in the ground, and I'm making a promise right here. Bass Reeves is next. That son of a bitch arrested me once, put me in chains, humiliated me in front of everyone. Well, I'm going to show him what happens when you disrespect Bob Dozier. I'm going to put a bullet between his eyes and take his badge just like I took Wilson's." Someone in the back spoke up. "Dozier, you're talking crazy. Bass Reeves will hunt you to the ends of the earth." Dozier smiled coldly. "Let him try. I'm the fastest draw in Creek Nation, and this time I'll be ready. When we meet, it'll be over in 3 seconds." What Dozier didn't know was that a bartender named Samuel worked for Bass Reeves. 3 days later, Samuel rode to Fort Smith and told Bass everything. Bass Reeves sat in Judge Isaac Parker's chambers, listening to Samuel's report. Judge Parker wanted to send a full posse. "This man's killed 4 lawmen. He's dangerous, he's fast, and he wants you dead." But Bass shook his head. "No posse, Judge. If I bring 20 men, Dozier disappears into Cherokee Nation and we never find him. But if it's just me, he'll get cocky, he'll make mistakes, and when he does, I'll be ready." Parker studied Bass's face. "You really think you can take him alone?" "I know I can," Bass said quietly. "Dozier's fast with a gun, but he's also angry, and angry men don't think clearly. I just need to be patient enough to wait for his mistake." The next morning, Bass Reeves rode out of Fort Smith alone. What followed was an 11-week hunt that would become legendary. Bass didn't track Dozier the way most marshals would. He didn't quietly follow footprints or sneak around asking questions. Instead, Bass announced himself loudly. He rode into Muskogee and asked in every saloon, "Anyone seen Bob Dozier? I'm looking for him. Name's Bass Reeves." Within 2 days, word reached Dozier. Bass Reeves was on his trail. Dozier's first reaction was confidence. "Good, let him come. I'll be ready." But by the end of week 1, when Bass tracked him to a camp outside Tahlequah, when Dozier woke up and saw Bass's horse tied to a tree a quarter-mile away, realized Bass had been watching him sleep, Dozier's confidence cracked. Dozier ran, left everything, just ran, and Bass let him go, because running men make mistakes. For the next 3 weeks, Bass stayed exactly 1 day behind Dozier. Every town Dozier visited, Bass arrived the next morning asking questions. Every camp Dozier made, Bass found 12 hours later and studied it. Every person Dozier talked to, Bass questioned the next day. Dozier started leaving messages, notes pinned to trees. "Reeves, you're wasting your time. I'm faster than you." Bass never responded, just kept coming. By week 4, Dozier wasn't sleeping. He'd wake every 2 hours, certain he heard Bass approaching. He'd see shadows and think it was the Marshal. "You're paranoid, Bob," his outlaw friends said. "You don't understand. He's always there, always 1 step behind. I can feel him." February 10th, 1884. Dozier came to a creek in Cherokee Territory. Broad daylight. He needed to cross. He started across, got halfway, looked up. Bass Reeves stood on the far bank, 50 yards away, Winchester rifle in his hands. Dozier froze in the middle of the creek, water up to his knees. For 10 seconds, neither man moved. Then Dozier raised his own Winchester, aimed at Bass. Bass didn't take cover, just stood there, waiting. Dozier fired. The shot echoed across the water. The bullet hit a tree 6 inches to Bass's right. Dozier worked the lever, aimed again. This time, Bass moved, 1 step behind a tree, smooth, calm. Dozier fired again, hit nothing but bark. And then Bass did something that terrified Dozier more than any gunfight. Bass lowered his rifle, didn't shoot back, just stood there watching. Then Bass spoke, his voice carrying across the water. "You missed twice, Bob, at 50 yards, and I haven't fired once. That tell you something?" Dozier's hands were shaking. "Next time I won't miss." "There won't be a next time like this," Bass said. "Next time we'll be close, 3 feet, maybe 5, and when you miss at that range, you don't get another shot." Dozier rode away fast, but the fear stayed with him, because Bob Dozier realized something. Bass Reeves wasn't afraid of him at all. By week 6, Dozier was desperate. He sent word through an outlaw, "Tell Reeves if he doesn't stop, I'll ride to Fort Smith and kill his wife and children." That message reached Bass on February 18th. Bass's reaction was immediate. He stopped giving Dozier breathing room, started pushing harder, cut Dozier's lead from 1 day to half a day to hours. By week 7, Bass was so close that Dozier could see his campfires at night. Dozier tried everything, changed directions, doubled back, used every trick. It didn't matter. Bass stayed on him like death itself. "He's not human," Dozier told an outlaw friend. "I can't shake him, can't lose him." "Then stop running," the friend said. "You're the fastest draw. Face him and end this." Dozier was quiet for a long moment. Then, "You're right, I'm done running." March 20th, 1884. Dozier found a clearing 20 miles south of Fort Smith. Open ground, no cover, perfect for a rifleman who wanted clear shots. He sent word to Bass through a creek messenger. "I'm done running. Meet me at Devil's Creek Clearing on April 3rd at noon. Just you and me. Let's see who walks away." Bass received the message on March 22nd. His tracking partner, William, was confused. "Why April 3rd? That's 12 days away. Why not tomorrow?" Because Dozier's smart. He picked that clearing for a reason. Open ground, no cover, perfect for a rifleman. And he's giving himself 12 days to camp there, to study the angles, to practice his shots, to set up any advantage he can. So it is a trap? Maybe. Or maybe Dozier genuinely thinks 12 days of preparation will be enough to beat me. Bass paused. Either way, he made a mistake. What mistake? Bass smiled. "He told me exactly where he'll be for the next 12 days, which means I can visit that clearing as many times as I want, study it, learn it, and by the time we meet, I'll know that ground better than he does." For the next 11 days, Bass Reeves visited Devil's Creek Clearing 5 times. He studied everything. Where the sun would be at noon on April 3rd, which direction the wind usually blew, how muddy the ground would get if it rained, sight lines from every angle, where Dozier would likely position himself. Bass noticed something crucial. The clearing sloped slightly south. If it rained, water would pool on the south end, turning it to mud. He also noted that Dozier had been camping on the north side, in the tree line where he'd have cover until the moment of the fight. Bass made his plan. Arrive early, position himself with the sun at his back, stand on the solid ground, not in the mud. Meanwhile, Dozier spent those 12 days practicing, drawing his Winchester, aiming, firing at targets he'd set up. He convinced himself he was ready, convinced himself that his speed would be enough. He was wrong. 11:45 a.m. Bass Reeves arrived at Devil's Creek Clearing 15 minutes early. He positioned himself on the north side of the clearing, solid ground, sun at his back, not where Dozier expected him to be. The sky was gray, rain clouds building. At 11:50, the rain started. Within minutes, the south end of the clearing, exactly where Bass had predicted, turned to mud. At 11:57, Bob Dozier walked out of the tree line. He was alone, no tricks, just a man with a Winchester rifle, a thick leather vest, and absolute certainty that his speed would win. Dozier stopped 15 feet from Bass. Both men were soaked. Rain ran down their faces. The ground beneath them was mud. "I'm impressed, Reeves," Dozier said. 11 weeks. Most marshals would have quit. But you're like a curse." "You shouldn't have run," Bass said calmly. "Shouldn't have killed Tom Wilson. Shouldn't have threatened my family. And you shouldn't have given me 12 days to study this clearing." Dozier's face tightened. "What? You think I just sat in Fort Smith waiting for today?" Bass said. "I've been here 5 times. I know every inch of this ground. I know where the sun would be. I know where the mud pools when it rains. And I know you'd come from the trees wearing that vest because you're scared of getting shot in the chest." Dozier looked down at his vest, then back at Bass. His confidence wavered. "You made this personal, Bob. You spent 11 weeks running, 11 weeks building yourself up, telling yourself you're faster. But speed doesn't matter when your opponent's already seen every move you're going to make." Dozier raised his Winchester, aimed at Bass's chest. "I told you I'd kill you, Reeves," Dozier said, his voice shaking now. "I keep my promises." Bass didn't move, didn't reach for his gun, just stood there watching Dozier's face. "Then do it, Bob. Pull your trigger, Bob." Dozier's finger touched the trigger, started to tighten, and Bass saw it, saw the muscles in his jaw tense, saw his pupils dilate, saw the tiny shift in his shoulders that meant the decision was made. Bass moved, 1 step left, not panicked, not desperate, just 1 deliberate step. The Winchester fired. The bullet passed through empty rain where Bass had been standing a fraction of a second earlier. And in that single second it took Dozier to work the lever action, to chamber the next round, Bass Reeves drew his Colt .45. Bass didn't aim for the head, too small in the rain. Didn't aim for the chest, the vest would stop it. He aimed for the neck, the only clean shot, and fired. The bullet hit exactly where Bass aimed, 3 inches below the jaw, straight through the carotid artery. Dozier's Winchester fell. He dropped to his knees, blood pouring out, mixing with mud and rain. He looked up at Bass, dying, confused. "How?" Dozier's voice was a wet gurgle. "You're not that fast." Bass holstered his weapon, walked over to where Dozier knelt. "You're right," Bass said calmly. "I'm not the fastest draw in the West, never claimed to be. But I didn't need to be faster than you, Bob. I just needed to move before you fired, and I did, because I read your eyes. I saw the decision before your finger pulled the trigger. That's the difference between being fast and being smart." Dozier tried to speak, but only blood came out. "You spent 11 weeks telling people you were faster, spent 12 days practicing your draw, and you were right, you are faster. You pulled that trigger before I drew my gun, but being fast doesn't matter if you can't hit what you're aiming at." Bob Dozier died 40 seconds later, face down in the Arkansas mud. Bass Reeves stood in the rain for a long moment. Then he tied Dozier's body to his horse and began the long ride back to Fort Smith. When Bass rode into Fort Smith, Judge Parker was waiting. "How'd it go?" Parker asked. "He shot first," Bass said. "Missed. I didn't." Parker examined Dozier's body. "Neck shot. That's unusual." "He was wearing a thick vest," Bass explained. "I noticed it when he walked into the clearing. Knew a .45 wouldn't punch through at that range. Neck was the only clean shot." Parker nodded slowly. "You could have killed him weeks ago, ambushed him in his sleep." "I could have," Bass agreed, "but that's not justice. He wanted a fair fight. I gave him one. He lost." The story spread through Indian Territory within days. Dozier was faster. Dozier shot first. Dozier missed. Bass Reeves read his eyes, moved early, and ended it with 1 perfect shot. The legend of Bob Dozier, fastest draw in Creek Nation, died in that clearing. But the legend of Bass Reeves grew stronger, because Bass proved something that changed how outlaws thought. Speed doesn't win gunfights. Awareness does. Preparation does. Intelligence does. Over the next 25 years, Bass Reeves faced dozens of outlaws who thought they were faster. None of them beat him. Not because Bass was the fastest, but because Bass understood what they didn't. Gunfights aren't won by whoever draws fastest. They're won by whoever thinks clearest. Bob Dozier believed speed was everything, believed his reputation made him untouchable. Bass Reeves knew better. He knew that the decision to shoot happens before the finger touches the trigger. And if you can read that decision, if you can see it in a man's eyes, you can move before he fires. That clearing in Arkansas became a story outlaws told for decades. You know why nobody beats Bass Reeves? Because he doesn't fight you on your terms, he fights you on his. And by the time you realize that, you're already bleeding out in the mud. Bob Dozier vowed to kill Bass Reeves, spent 11 weeks running, spent 12 days preparing, and in 3 seconds, Bass Reeves proved that preparation beats speed every time. Dozier missed. Reeves didn't. That's the whole story. When people talk about Bass Reeves today, they talk about his 3,000 arrests, his 32-year career, his courage and integrity. But the Bob Dozier story shows who Bass Reeves really was. Not the fastest, not the flashiest, not the one making threats, just the smartest man in the fight. The one who stayed calm when everyone else panicked. The one who read the situation perfectly and acted with precision. Bob Dozier was fast. Bass Reeves was better. And better always beats fast. Remember that muddy clearing. Remember the outlaw who vowed to kill a marshal. Remember the black lawman who proved that intelligence beats speed every single time. Because that's not just a gunfight story. That's a lesson about life. Being the best doesn't mean being the loudest or fastest. It means being the smartest, the most prepared, the one who stays calm when chaos erupts. Bob Dozier learned that lesson 3 seconds too late. Bass Reeves had known it his whole life. That's why Dozier's in a forgotten grave, and Bass Reeves is a legend that will never die. If this story of intelligence over speed, patience over panic, and skill over reputation inspired you, hit that subscribe button. We're bringing you untold legends from the Wild West and Black history every single day. Drop a comment. Would you have faced Dozier in that clearing, or would you have brought a posse? Share this with someone who needs to hear about the Marshal who proved that being smart beats being fast every single time. Turn on notifications, because next week we're telling the story of how Bass Reeves arrested his own son for murder, and what he said in court made the judge cry. Bass Reeves didn't just enforce the law, he defined what it means to be legendary.